What's it look like? It's your man Furious Styles, your hip-hop loving, video game playing, time traveling homie from YouTube. And look, man, when it comes to retro games, man, I'm a fiend. And I like my sugar with coffee and cream and a little bit of whiskey. Will y'all excuse me for one moment? It's exactly what we get for buying a house on a Native American burial ground, man. And welcome to yet another episode of my Retro Report Card, your favorite bi-weekly YouTube show where I go into the underbelly of the gaming world of yesteryear and scope out the forgotten games that are worth a look and snuff out the bombs and the dregs. I swear I don't usually get this dark, but this time your boy's about to get gritty with it. I mean, less like the time where Academy Award winner Will Smith is slapping comedians on stage for ball jokes, and maybe more when the Fresh Prince was catching assault charges for sending goons over to Mollywop record promoters. Now, a couple of episodes ago, I looked at my first superhero game of the series, The Death and Return of Superman, which could possibly be one of the best Superman games out there. But in the landscape of gaming, it was pretty subpar. It also had me questioning how to make Supes a bit more vulnerable to make a better Superman game. And if you haven't seen that episode, well, shoot, stop what you're doing right now and come back to this one. I mean, I'll wait. Okay, look, man, I got ADHD, man. I'll just timestamp it. But honestly, after a while, it had me questioning the idea of superhero games in general. Now, if you can think back to that episode, I did say I wasn't a huge DC comic fan, mainly because everybody in the universe is so damn powerful. So, besides Batman, whether it be Supes or Flash or Wonder Woman, like making a game with the DC comic book roster seems damn near impossible. I mean, it'll probably feel like you're playing on cheat codes or God mode and would provide no challenge whatsoever. But on the flip side, we got the Marvel Universe, which I've always found to have cooler and a more relatable roster of heroes and villains, and, well, better games in general. So it had me focusing on the idea if there was a Marvel hero that could actually solo a decent Marvel game. And of course the de facto choice is Spider-Man, who has already been in like 1,000,006 games anyway. And if I'm not mistaken, has soloed the most out of any other Marvel superhero. And it's easy to see why. I mean, decent powers and tools, a great role gallery, and I think the biggest reason that Spider-Man is such a draw for a solo Marvel video game is because he has the vulnerability to lose. Now, if he wins, 9 times out of 10 it was his brains that got him out of it, but most of the time if he loses, he was just overpowered, like, say, Batman, who also has a lot of good games for the DC side. And if I'm not mistaken, they've actually had more heroes that have had solo efforts compared to DC. I mean, the Incredible Hulk, Silver Surfer, Deadpool, Wolverine, and Miles Morales have all had solo games to varying degrees of success and acclaim, with Blade and Wolverine having solo games in development, at least at the time of recording. But if there's one hero or heroine that's probably tailor-made for a solo game, it's the one, the only, Howard the Duck. That's right. Howard the Duck. I mean, a platformer with the wise talking duck in the same vein as Gex? Like, come on. I mean, I guess the Punisher could possibly work too. And he has already had a few tries. His debut on the NES was a bit of a mixed bag. But his arcade beat-em-up, developed by Capcom?
Fantastique. Overdia.
I mean, the pure chaos of picking up gun after gun, weapon after weapon, just to mow down mafia members to get to the kingpin? I mean, that's a hell of a concept for a beat 'em up if I ever heard one. And then for a while, nothing happened. Until January 2005, which is where I'm going to be going back to in this episode. Either way, I had a line for my traveling through time this episode, but y'all didn't like it. Get it, cuz. Yeah, look, I thought it was funny. Oh wow, this show must be getting somewhere. Do I have a grill in my mouth? Usually I'm getting my time traveling clothes secondhand, but wait a minute. Is this a used grill? Anyway, today we're looking at the third try for Frank Castle on a home console, on a game aptly known as the Punisher. Developed by Volition and published by THQ. I miss Volition, yo. Good Volition, not, Agents of Mayhem and rebooted Saints Row Volition, but, the other stuff. The good times. Aww. Anyways, the main reason for not giving this game the time of day was the fact that I don't know, games about movies just wasn't really my thing. Besides, probably maybe, I don't know, Spider-Man 2, but man. So what could have been taking up my time punishing mobsters? Well, at the time I was punishing defenses on NFL Street 2. Now your man ain't really a fan of the sports games, but I don't know, EA Big was in the bag on that one. Man, I miss EA Big. I miss EA Big. Jeez. Now the game was a weird one to find. You know, what I've been seeing as of late is games with somewhat decent reputations, but the price is slightly all over the place. Now, I'm usually looking to spend like $25, but a lot of times it doesn't go that well, and The Punisher is no exception. I found a loose copy of the game on, once again, eBay for the grand total of $37.37. Once again, not bank breaking, but you know, it's cool. According to the great folks at PriceCharting.com. PriceCharting.com. Look, the time traveling joke was kind of smart. Just saying. A loose copy of The Punisher on Xbox is valued at $34.99, meaning I bought this at a loss of $2.71. Well, the streak had to end sometime, even if it was just one episode. Good times. Good times. Let's commemorate those beautiful 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, that's enough. And if this is your first time watching my retro report card, as with all my episodes, I assess these games on a 5-point system based on graphics, sound, control, fun factor, and challenge. I don't know if anybody's figured this out yet, but this is literally the old review system for GamePro magazine. Wow! I wonder what Scary Larry and Dan Electro and the boys are up to these days.
It was at this moment Furious realized he was the only one that remembers those guys.
So in this game, you take control of Marvel's resident, violent, loose cannon anti-hero vigilante, Frank Castle. Or as he's better known as...
Hey, it's that finisher dude.
I mean, it's the Punisher, but yeah, close enough. Anyways, he's actually been arrested for shooting up a Yakuza stronghold, among other things. I mean, shooting, assaulting, and torturing like 40 million people is slightly frowned upon in the great state of New York, even if they are criminals and gangsters. In Rikers Island, no, not that one. No, this one is spelled with a Y, so, you know, resembles, but legally distinct from the correctional facility that you might be thinking about. Frank is getting interrogated by Detective Soap and Von Richthofen, and recounts his past escapades on the war on crime that has led him to being placed in custody. I mean, it's the Punisher we're dealing with here, so of course you know that there's plenty of bloodshed and mayhem and angst to be had. But how does it fare under our lofty standards? Is this game packing some big guns? Or is it a complete and utter misfire? Let's pop it in and find out. So when we start the Punisher's rampage, we start small scale to get a little bit of practice. And what better practice is there for a relentless, hot-headed vigilante with no chill than dropping drug dealers in a crack house? The tutorial jumps off with easily the most innovative mechanic of this game, the interrogation mechanic, which can be used to extract info, get style points, more on that later, and even get health back. This is done by grabbing an enemy, which automatically turns them into a human shield. Then on the joystick, you can choose how you want to question them. Now the circumstances and environments may dictate which modes of inquiry you can enact, but spoiler alert, all of them are practically bad cop methods. The basics include simply choking them, smashing their heads on the ground, punching the mess out of them, and finally the one that I found to be the most versatile and easy to use, gun tension, where you just put the gun in their face and threaten them. Now, in order to successfully interrogate an enemy, all you have to do is hold their stress level in the designated zone for 3 seconds. This becomes a bit of a balancing act, as sometimes you gotta rough up an enemy to soften them up and make their stress level easier to rise. As you progress through the game, enemies tend to be real G's that move in silence like lasagna and require a bit more roughing up. But you have to walk the fine line of hurting them, but not killing them, as killing them not only loses you style points, but keeps information and even prevents some beneficial events from happening. You also get these spots in most of the levels where you can do environmental interrogations or special kills, which, if completed correctly, net you a good mess load of style points. Now, these lines of questioning include, but aren't limited to, everything from getting all cold-blooded with it, like threatening to impale somebody with a drill press, or locking an enemy in a cremation furnace, to the absolutely ridiculous, like smashing someone's head into a toilet, to pinning an enemy against an open rhino cage. You know, sometimes you get to a certain age and you sit yourself down and ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? And this game is so insane, it's starting to slowly push me to that question. However, fail these special interrogations and you end up killing your enemies in pretty grisly ways that is shadowed by this crappy ass filter that honestly caused a whole lot of hoopla at the time of release. More on that later. Now I talked about style points, right? Well, let's get into it. So the points you get for gunning down or dropping enemies is pretty weak. But the good part is, if you can string together a streak of kills when you're not hit, it can multiply your style points. Not only that, the way in which you do adds points too. I told you about those special kills, which range from the mundane to punching someone out of a window to this beaut of a takedown in the funeral home level. See, my first instinct in games like this is to run in like a maniac, guns blazing. But I love the fact that the game awards you for strategic play. So playing it like an 80s action hero with no defense or cover probably won't net you a whole lot of points, like say, I don't know, playing it like a 2K action hero, where you're dodging and dipping and ducking and diving and, dodge. No, I was gonna say deflect, you dead dodgeball legend. You already said dodge. Now I also have a lot of love where they put the emphasis in terms of the gameplay, which is more on the weapons and less on the gear. See, there are no life power-ups. You need life so bad, you gotta interrogate enemies and save innocents for a life boost. Bulletproof vest, yeah, bump that. You best grab a thug and use him as a human shield, damn it. You got your armory, and as you progress through the levels, you begin to pick up bigger and better weapons that you can start levels off with. You always have your main gun, usually a shotgun or a rifle of some sort, and you have your backup, usually a pistol, which you can go all akimbo with. You can go akimbo with the big ones too, but once you're out of ammo, you're shooting solo again. There are melee weapons too, but I barely use them. I mean, who takes a knife to a gunfight? But if you do get close enough, you can get a quick instant kill near an enemy. The story is also pretty dope too. I think one of the things I appreciate about it is the fact that it's not based off the movie, which was actually refreshing. As probably one of the only people who actually enjoyed the movie, I can still admit it probably would have made a lousy video game. I mean, not all my favorite movies need to be turned into games. I mean, damn, did you see what they did to Reservoir Dogs and Fight Club? I mean, Christ, just imagine if they got their hands on The Notebook or Finding Forrester. What? What? I mean, they were Tupac's favorite movies, so what's up? Now, the game takes place after the origin story, but they do still make callbacks to it. One of the neat hidden unlockables pop up when you interrogate enemies at certain points in the game, which unlocks flashbacks to the Punisher's creation. Fun little way to add in Castle's bouts with PTSD. The other thing you gotta appreciate is the fact that they went for the comic book aesthetic instead of the realistic one. I mean, the character models for the Punisher are awesome. Some of the other side characters, I mean, unfortunately, most of the hostages look like college kids cheering on the set of MTV's TRL.
Thanks, man.
What an asshole. Thanks for wasting him.
And I was going to complain about a lot of the enemies that you encounter, but I actually love the way that they evolve and slowly too. Like, as you progress, you go from just Moet drinking, marijuana smoking street dwellers to those with lavish habits, 2 rings, 20 carats, to special operatives specializing in weapons diagnostics. Not only that, the levels that you go through too are well done and as dark and gritty as a Punisher game should probably be. The only real issues I had with the level design is sometimes it was just dizzying. The zoo level and the boss fight with Sticky Eddie Nucci was sorta annoying. I mean, having to hunt down this Michael Corleone looking jerk through this maze damn near gave me a headache. But I appreciated the challenge for such an aggravating boss battle. When it comes to the bosses you get to face, there's some stepping stones like the Nucci family, including Ma Nucci, and more familiar Punisher faves like Bushwhacker, the Russian, Bullseye, and of course, Jigsaw. That's not even Jigsaw, that's Billy. Like, come on, man, be a little more clever with my jokes. I mean, they're at least worth the price of a possibly used grill. So let's rap about the sound. And I feel like I've been hard on the sound in my last couple of reviews. Like, I don't think I've given the sound a 5.0 on any of the 6 games I've already reviewed. Unfortunately, this one will probably be no different. But I will admit, The Punisher was at least a good try. The soundtrack is fire. Once again, not my style of music, but it fits the Punisher like a glove. I mean, the classical and dramatic touches just put you in the mood of busting heads as an angry New Yorker hell-bent on justice. The sound effects, also pretty good. The blasting of the guns and the explosions are awesome. The voice acting is one of the hit or miss spots. However, I think the titular Punisher is the MVP as he should be. Even better when you realize Thomas Jane actually handles the voicing duty and does a really good job. I mean, he really nails the tough, dry, solitary loner to a T, which is weird because I felt like he plays him a bit differently than he did in the actual movie, so I gotta give him some points there. Okay, sidebar. Is it me or has there never been a bad portrayal of the Punisher? I know most people would probably put Thomas Jane at the bottom of the list, and fair enough, but while I've only liked one of the movies and, well, the only show that they've ever had, I can't actually blame any of the actors that have portrayed the Punisher. Now, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I feel like of all the superheroes that have been played by, I don't know, more than 3 actors, I think the Punisher's probably got the strongest castings. And before you say Spider-Man, listen, there was a Spider-Man that I absolutely hated, but I'm not going to discuss it here because it's probably going to get guns drawn on me just like the Punisher. However, the other voice actors unfortunately come off a bit cartoony or really dumb sounding, almost to a point it takes you out of the action a bit. I also hate the way it's mixed. And most of your dialogues with Soap and Von Richthofen, the sound is great. You can hear everything, then all of a sudden you go into a cutscene before a mission and this happens.
Taking a bite out of crime, apparently. What was the body count again?
Get the out of the road, asshole!
New York City. Forget the things you've heard about the place.
And I didn't edit it to do that. But either way, the sound isn't perfect. But everything they hit, they nail. The controls are your basic standard of fare from most of your third-person shooters at the time, and while not super bad, it's definitely aged. One of the strangest phenomenon I've dealt with throughout my retro gaming journey is almost having to relearn the controller schemes of a certain type of genres from a certain period. Like I felt in my hey, I could pick up a game like The Punisher and blaze through the tutorial level and call it stupid while doing it. Call it seasoning or me going through the evolution of gaming, but backtracking and trying to play this game seemed familiar, but at the same time, foreign. When I got over the learning curve, I started getting it. Yeah, I wasn't playing like a top shotter, but I was getting the points for the medals, so it gets a pass. While most of the game is solid, there were some damn near disastrous glitches, and both of the biggest ones were dumb. The AI is actually pretty decent, but I did run into an issue while trailing a mobster. I somehow got stuck behind an open door, and unfortunately, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to get past it, so I had to restart the section. Oh, huge plus for the game for allowing you the choice to restart a section if it's not going your way, rather than having you fight through the entire mission again. The second was simply when I saved these 2 hostages and I couldn't get past them. I mean, I almost shot them just to end the level, but eventually it worked itself out. All in all, there were few and far in between, which was enough to mention, but not really knock the Punisher as a glitch dumpster fire. Now I think the immersion of a superhero game is where it shines, especially when it comes to the fun, and the Punisher understands the assignment. In my The Death of Superman episode, I lamented the fact about while you were playing as Superman and had a couple of his powers, you didn't really feel like Superman. You just felt like you were playing a lackluster beat 'em up. Now, maybe it's unfair to compare it to a game that came out 11 years later and on a better piece of hardware, but props where props are due. The Punisher does it well here. I mean, even from the menus, which is all based in Frank Castle's busted ass apartment, where I can see a tree of the people on my hit list, which helps you kind of navigate where the story is going. A wall of newspapers clippings, which shows off your crime busting exploits, doesn't really do much, but oh man, that's awesome. Your man Furious is against animal cruelty. But come on, man, you lying to yourself if you're not trying to find what issue of the Punisher this came from. You can also see your weapons cache, exhibiting the weapons you've unlocked throughout your war on crime, accompanied by the soothing sounds of Mr. Jane breaking down some specs about each one.
When a high-speed 5.56mm round enters the human body, it turns sideways and rips several inches through muscle and tissue, and then shatters for when I really want to hurt someone.
Yeah, I'm not even into guns like that, but yeah, I was a little turned on. Probably the most important part in your apartment menu, whatever, is the ability to upgrade Mr. Castle's particular set of skills with your style points. And you can do everything from unlock attachments to some of his weapons, improve his health or accuracy, and even increase his ammo capacity. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I usually have some kind of gauge as to how these games were received upon release. but this might be one of the first times. I don't know if I have a real consensus. And to be fair, I don't have a whole lot of memories about this game. I mean, I think I saw somebody playing it in college once, but that's about as far as I got. Either way, the game did make a good impression on me. But how does it hold up after my rigorous grading system? Well, before I hit it with that judgment, just like all of my other episodes, let me kick that sweet, sweet knowledge to you. So early in the episode, I did say I'd explain that garbage filter on all your failed interrogations. So when the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or the ESRB, received the initial copy of this game, they rated it at AO, adults only, deeming the interrogation scenes to be a little bit too graphic, despite all of this. Getting a pass, and thus The Punisher became only the 4th game on home consoles to ever earn the distinction. Of course, they edited it down to drop it down to a mature level because AO games can't be sold by major retailers, and even worse, cannot be published by any of the big 3. Now, to further this weird fact, we've actually already reviewed the 2nd game to actually earn this distinction, which was the canceled prototype of the subject of episode 5 of my retro report card, Wu-Tang Shaolin Style, Thrill Kill. And as Furious Styles giving you, the ESRB used to be on one. I mean, did they get laxer or am I just old now? Well, as fun as this game was, which, I mean, it actually was, it's time for the Punisher to stand trial. Or just be graded. Whatever. Now, let's check the graphics. Now, of course, this game is not one of the most mind-blowing things you'll ever see on the Xbox, but it does its job. The comic book aesthetic comes through very nicely, and despite the hostage characters looking so uninteresting, it gets balanced out by the Punisher himself and a lot of the character models. The backgrounds do the heavy lifting when it comes to the graphics, and all of them look pretty good. And despite a couple of glitches, the graphics mostly hold up. So I think it's earned enough for at least a 4.0.
Yeah, boy!
So what does it sound like? Well, honestly, pretty damn good. You know, despite some technical issues with mixing and during certain parts of the game, everything else is awesome. I mean, Thomas Jane does his thing and does a really awesome job with voicing the character. His supporting cast, a bit of a step down. The sound effects are good, but the soundtrack, that's what's really shouldering the load. And off that strength alone, I think the sound deserves a 4.0.
Yeah, boy!
Now let's swing it over to the controls, which again, aren't earth-shattering. The controls do work. And maybe they're not the snappiest, but there's nothing egregious to really dock it for. The control scheme is a bit outdated and the learning curve is a bit steep, but once you get around to it, it's not too bad. I will say I feel like I overworked the right trigger to a point it wasn't as reactive as it probably could have been. But seeing it's a Punisher game and if you ain't firing, you're getting fired at. My experience with the controls is worth 3.0.
It's alright.
Alright, fun factor. Look, if you've seen the show before, you know I absolutely hate dunking on games. With that being said, this episode was actually a breeze. Look, suspense aside, I had a great time actually playing this game. I was invested in seeing where the story goes. I was even more invested in pumping up my style points, upgrading my stats, getting all the weapons, and as weird as it sounds, making my playthroughs look a little bit more cinematic. I know, real CDO of me. That's OCD for people that actually have it. Either way, along with the interrogation system and all the interesting levels, the fun factor is somehow in some way gonna get 5.0 from me.
Sensational.
Which brings us to the challenge, which there's plenty of. It's not the hardest game, but it's also not the easiest game, and the level navigation gets pretty confusing, especially in the zoo level. The game is odd basically because a lot of the features that you believe would be in this game are replaced by other features, but it makes it a somehow more interesting experience and kind of get used to it. it's kind of pushing that line of being tough and being a breeze. So I'll give it a grade of an intermediate. And that is yet another episode down. I'm starting to think I'm getting a little good at this. Maybe, I don't really know. But the views are going up and I have y'all to thank for that. So that's gotta be worth something, right? Well, either way, I'm the first person to admit that I might have made a mistake. As great of a game as NFL Street 2 is, I should have had this one in rotation because it was pretty much a blast. The Punisher on Xbox is gonna get a final grade of a B-. Now, which is pretty damn fine grade. I mean, it scored better than I thought it would. I mean, this good luck with my watch probably ain't lasting much longer, so I should probably head on back. You know what? It has been a pretty good episode. I mean, the games of the documentary just dropped today, so you already know. But if you know of another game that deserves a little peek from the past, well, hit me up on my socials. You know, I got that Insta, and I got that TikTok, and I got a work in progress Discord, and I might be working on a little bit of a Twitch thing. More on that later. But hit me up at Fury S Styles. One word, Z at the end. And as always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the future.